Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm. In this video, I'm going to show you what, what I've. Oh, hello! I just went way weird. Let me show you what I've been building. I'll just go ahead and just play it, and then that's my prototype level. Never mind. Let me show you what I've been building. All right. So, here's what I want you to get to. I want you to get to the point where you have something that looks somewhat like this. Now, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be, obviously it's not going to be exactly like mine, but you can add some stuff to your level. Now, you'll notice that there are some kind of tearing issues. If you look, there's some gaps between some of the corner pieces right there. The way I built this level is I built it the old school way. Using the tile maps or the tiles that we have, I basically just pieced them all together and tried to fit everything together manually. It looks nice, but again, we have some issues. We have some issues with the corners not matching up exactly, and it took way longer than it should have. So I'm going to show you how to create that same thing, but using a much easier system. First thing we have to do, though, is we have to create a brand new scene, and I call it objects. I just called mine objects. You can call it library, whatever you want. And what you're going to do is you're going to import every one of these individual level meshes that you're going to want, and make sure that they all have their colliders attached to them. Okay, so I try to, it doesn't really matter where you put them. I just kind of separated them out so it was easier to see, and make sure that I had them all in here. But you're going to grab them all and just drop them into this new empty scene. You can see that everything here, it's all a child of a 3D Node 3D object, and I have every mesh object that I'm going to want in my dungeon, even some that I'm not going to use. I just threw everything in there because you never know what you're going to want, right? So, come on. So anyway, so it's all in here. It's all ready to go. Now what we need to do is we need to turn this into a library, a mesh library. So what a mesh library is it's going to take all of these individual meshes itself and create a library of them that we can then use to build our game. So the way you do that is you make sure that the root node is selected in your scene. You go to Scene, Export as Mesh Library. And it's going to give you an option to name your mesh library. I've already done it, so I'm not going to do it again. And I've placed mine just in my root folder right there, level library.tres, T-R-E-S. That's a mesh library file. Then what you can do is when we create a new 3D scene, I'm going to add a child node, and it's going to be this object here, or this node type here, called a grid map. A grid map is basically like, if you remember back to Game Dev 1, when we use tile maps for our 2D scenes, this is like tile maps, but for 3D. Okay, so I'm going to click Create, and now I have my grid map. The thing about grid maps, though, is I need a mesh library in order to have tiles to drag into there. So luckily I already have a mesh library, so I'm going to drag that over. It's not wanting to drag. All right, I'm going to click the menu here and click load and find my level library, and there we go. So now all the objects that I've put into that mesh library are now objects that I can click and add into my scene. Knowing this, actually, one thing real quick. Let's just take a look at how this is lining up. Notice how the floor tile isn't exactly lining up to the grid properly. We could play around with that. We can change the cell size to 1 by 1. And see if that aligns better. Nope, it's still in the center. So actually cell size didn't matter. Let's change octant size. I'll change all that back to 2. Let's see if that changes anything. Let's do 4. Did that change anything? Nope. Interesting. I know there's a way to offset these. Actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, we have to go into Blender and offset these differently. So we're not going to worry about it. We're going to play around with, we're going to keep the limitations here. What this may cause, however, is whenever we have a floor tile, a large one and a small one together, notice how they don't really click together properly. That could cause an issue. So I would just decide, are you going to stick with large floor tiles or small floor tiles, and then just keep one. I'm gonna go with large. All right, so here's the reason why grid maps are really, really helpful. We can click and just create whatever we want. We can click and drag to fill in. We can hold Shift and drag, and then Control F to fill an entire area. That's really helpful. We can also search through our meshes for something specific. Oh, and if we want to delete, we can right click to delete. Okay. Let me go back to, and just delete a nice area here. Drop that in there. Let's delete right there. Grab my large floor tile again and put it back in. So now I have like a center piece. Okay, so, and you can also you can filter. So let's say I want wall. Okay, so I'm going to look for a wall piece. These are all the pieces that are labeled as walls. So I'll choose this cracked wall here just to demonstrate. I'm going to put a wall along the back here, and I can click and drag, but notice that when I click and drag, let me just show you. Notice that when I click and drag, it's not really respecting the fact that this wall piece is like 2 grid pieces in one. So it doesn't look great. And so I'm going to undo all of that. So what you're going to want to do is kind of put it where you want it and then click. Okay. And then corner piece, let's grab a corner piece, snap it in. Now to rotate, you can rotate on the x-axis by pushing the S key. You can rotate on the y-axis by pressing the A key, and you can rotate on the z-axis by pressing the D key. So we're gonna stick with the x-axis, or the X. There we go. And you can just keep going, just build your level using this system. Now, let's say you're done building the level and you want to add some lights. Well, I can add a light. Oh, I think it's called torch. Is it a torch? What is the name of that object? There we go, torch. So I can grab a torch. I'm going to grab a wall-mounted torch. And notice that the wall-mounted torch is kind of on the bottom. So what I can do is I can change the floor to put it up a little bit, but it's also not really where I want it to be. I need to rotate it anyway. It's not really snapping to the wall in the way I want it to. It's kind of in the middle of the wall. So with objects like this, we can just add them in as child nodes. And the easy way to do that is because we have this object scene, we can come over here. We can, oh, why do I always do that? We can find what we're looking for. Oh, I've got my torches here. I'm going to grab this, Control C, come back over here, Control V to add it into the level. And let's see, where did it go? Oh, it's over here. So I can move it, bring it up a little bit, and I can manually place it wherever I want in the world. So I can zoom all the way over here. Boom, 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 boom. This is a very big level, by the way. I should not have really made it this long or this big. And I can kind of put it where I want. I can even turn on snap mode so that it snaps where I want it to go. Okay. And I can add lights to the torch. Let's add a light to the torch real quick. So as a child of the torch, I'm going to add a light. And this is going to be an Omni light. So Omni lights are better from if your source is like a light bulb or a candle. It'll put light in all directions. I'll add an Omni light. I'm going to move the light up. Oh, I'm going to turn off snap. All right. I'm going to move the light back down and move it over so that the source of the light is where the torch is. And then I'm going to come over here and play around with the light. I don't want it to be a bright white. I want it to be an orangey light because it's a torch, right? So we'll lighten it up just a little bit, maybe a little bit more. I like that. That looks good. Energy, we can increase the energy so it gives off more. Indirect energy we can play with. We can play with all kinds of these, all of these things. But that looks fine. And then once I like the torch the way it is, I can just duplicate the torch and just add them throughout my level. And I can do the same thing for any of these objects as well. Let's say I want this, banquet table here. Hello? I can copy it and bring it over, drop it into my scene, and just kind of put it where I want it to be. And I can turn on snapping as well, so I can snap it where I want it. Now, sometimes when you're playing with snap, let me fly over here to this thing. Sometimes when you're playing with snapping, it doesn't snap exactly. So what you can do is turn off snap, get it kind of where you want it to go, turn it back on, and then kind of snap it where it should be. Okay, so there we go. Nice. Got a table, and I can, rotate it and put it wherever I want. So with objects, you're going to want to bring them in as individuals so that you can actually rotate and play around with them. With the tiles, like the walls and the floor, you're going to want to bring those in a 3D grid map. If you really, really want to do it the old school way, you can bring in your walls individually and then move them where you're going to go. But the problem is, let me show you this level. Just this small 2 rooms here. Look at so I've had to organize all of my nodes because there were too many. Look at all the floor tiles, the individual floor tiles I had to bring in, and the individual wall tiles I had to bring in. And then, I have my lights, which again, I would definitely organize these a little bit, and my furniture. And this scene's not even fully filled in. I just threw a couple of things in there just to kind of be gee whiz and show you kind of what you can do. There's still so much more to go. I only have 2 rooms and a couple of lights and, that kind of stuff. So it's not anywhere near what it could be, what a full level could be. So you're probably going to want to use the 3D grid system just to make sure that you're getting what you want. The last thing I want to talk about real quick is our lighting and environment systems. While we're looking at this scene in our 3D view, Godot will automatically give a simulated lighting and environment, but as soon as we play it, let's play this scene. Oh, we're going to need to save it first. Sure, I'll save it as Node 3D. And when I play it, nothing's going to happen because I don't have a camera. Let me add my player into this scene real quick. And let's put them... Oh, that's not what I wanted. I did that last time, didn't I? I want the knight, not the player. Where is he? Oh, it's a barbarian. I did the same thing last time. Let's just bring him into the scene. I'll just do it like that. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and play. So notice it's really dark. I'm not seeing any light here, except for the one light coming off my torch. Oh, I left some tiles open. I can fall through. Anyway, so that's what it looks like, right? Even if I turn on the simulated light and environment when I go to play it, it shows me what it really is like. So I'm going to turn those off, and I'm going to add what I want to begin with. Now, because this is a dungeon and I want all the lighting to come from the torches, I'm not going to add a light, but you could if you wanted to. If you wanted to add a light, you could add what we call a directional light 3D. That kind of is a light that acts like the sun. We'd raise it up, and then this arrow here indicates the direction it's pointing. We're going to use the directional light in our next scene or our next game because it'll be outside. And so we can kind of change the angle of the light if we wanted to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get rid of that light. I want the dungeon light from the torches. But I do want an environment. So I'm going to add a child node, look for world environment, and click create. And it didn't really do anything because we haven't given it an environment. So over here we can click new environment, and then we can click on the environment to edit it. The big thing I really want to focus on is background. So the background is going to change what is behind what's here, right? So this big gray void, it's going to change that. Now, maybe I want it to be a nice gray void, but probably not this color. So let's go to custom color and let's make it, I don't know, like a dark blue. So it's, you know, it's a dungeon-y color, but it's, you know, it's a whatever. It's a little nicer than that gray anyway. We can also change the ambient light. We can play around with that if we really wanted to. Change the source, change it to sky, change the ambient light to something else. Yeah, anyway. We could play around with that if we really, really wanted to. Reflected light, we can change the reflections. The other thing we could do is fog. We can enable fog in the scene, which automatically makes it way, way foggy. I'm going to play this and see what it looks like, even without playing around with any of the settings. So now we have this fog, but it's really thick, really, really thick. That might be kind of what you're going for, but probably not. So you can come in here and you can change it. We can change the fog color here. We can change the density. Turn it way, way down. We can change the height of the fog, so we can, let's put my density back where it was. We can change the height of the fog, so we can bring the fog, where is it? Oh, there we go. There's a threshold over which the fog will affect your scene. I probably don't have enough lights in here. Let me simulate lighting real quick so it's easier to see what we're doing here. So if we increase the height of the fog, then it will go above where we're looking at. I'm going to try to see if we can isolate it so the fog is just below the level. It's not really, it's not really doing what I want it to do. Anyway, the whole point is just to play around with the sliders and see what you can make it do. It's kind of not really giving me the effect I want. Maybe volumetric is what I'm looking for. I think the volumetric fog is maybe what I'm looking for. Anyway, I would spend hours playing around with these settings, trying to get it to be exactly what I want. And if I was making a game for production, wow, that does not look great. If I was making a game for, you know, a professional production, I probably would spend a lot of time playing with these options. But today I'm not going to worry about it. You can play with them all you want, though. See if you can get the effect you're looking for. Really what's going to set this off is the lighting. So adding a lot of lights. Let's see. One thing you can do with lighting as well. Let's take a look at the other light options we have. There are spotlights that you can create, which are really effective if you, let's say, have, I don't know, like a chandelier or something hanging. Let's turn off that lighting. It's really, really light, or it's really weak here. So let's change it. Change the spot. Give it a nice big range. Give it some attenuation. And the angle is nice. So what I like to do in a dark game like this, maybe I want the spotlight to follow my character around so that, you know, my character always has a light above them. And let's change the color. Make it a nice, like, I'll make it like a blue. Okay, let me play this and see what what that looks like. Come on. So as you can see, I have a spotlight around me. Oh, there's a little bit of weird clipping in the light in the middle of my head. It looks like I got a flashlight, a flashing blinker on the back of my head. But you can create a spotlight that kind of follows your character around, so it's a little easier to see what you're doing. Anyway, those are some ideas. Play around with that, see what you come up with. I want to see your level, so record a video of you walking around in your level. Show me what you've come up with. This is going to be pretty fun. I'm excited to see what you guys make. All right, I will see you next time. Peace.